Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar for maths. My name is Elizabeth Ivory, and I'm Head of Marketing here at Folens. So what do we have planned for you this evening? Well, first up, we have Patrick Neary, an experienced author and teacher. And Patrick's going to take us through how problem solving and the role it will play in the new maths curriculum. And Patrick will also introduce our new maths programme, My Problem Solving Journal. Following Patrick's presentation, we'll have an opportunity for any questions that you'd like to ask. So there's a chat box on your screen. So throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, just stick them in there and we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end. And joining us this evening as well is Ciara Walsh, a member of our commissioning team. And Ciara has been working on the whole My Problem Solving series as well. So without further ado, let me hand you over to Patrick. Now we can see your screen now. That's great.
Thanks. Great, thanks Elizabeth for that. As Elizabeth said, my name is Patrick Neary, and it's great to be here with you this evening, and really appreciate you giving up your time in what's been an extremely busy month, I'm sure, for everyone, and I'm sure everyone's had an extremely busy day, and it's great to see so many people here today. So just a little bit about myself first and my background. I'm teaching 6th class this year in St. Cronin Senior National School in Swords. And my interest in maths really goes back a long way from when I started teaching. A couple of years after starting teaching, I did a master's in maths education in DCU. After that, I did some part-time work on the BEd course down there, lecturing in maths education. And that led me on then to working with Maths for All, which is run by Dr. Siún McVerry down in DCU, and it's a CPD website for teachers. So there's professional development material, there's videos of good practice in maths teaching, and we ran webinars like this as well. After that then, I was extremely lucky to get the chance to work with Folens on My Problem Solving Journal, and myself and the other two brilliant authors, Grace Lynch, who wrote our 3rd and 4th class book, and Elaine Dillon, who wrote our 1st and 2nd class books. We're extremely proud to see My Problem Solving Journal out in classrooms, and we hope that anyone who's using it is enjoying it, and that some other people here might get the chance to use it shortly. So tonight, I'm going to have three main parts to my piece tonight. First of all, I'm going to look at the context of a changing curriculum. This is really looking at why problem solving is more important now than ever, and why the children in our classrooms need it now more than ever. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the importance of problem solving, I guess my background in why problem solving is important for me, and how we might teach problem solving and use problem solving in the classroom. And finally then, we'll look at some samples from My Problem Solving Journal and just see how the book that we created can help teachers implement problem solving in their classrooms and help them to teach through problem solving. So last school year, you might have heard of the publication of the draft specifications for the new curriculum. And I think when we hear new curriculum, it sounds like this is brand new. It's something new for us all to hear about. But it's important to remember that there's been so much background work in preparing this draft curriculum. The first research reports were published back in 2014. And these reports really focused on the early years, looking at children from 3 to 8 years old. But the messages in those research reports were applicable across the whole primary school level. Following that, in 2018, the first draft specification was published, but it focused from junior infants to 2nd class. So if you were teaching in the junior years at that stage, you may have seen this, you might have had a look at it, but that was the first iteration of the specifications. Following that, then in 2019, Dr. Therese Dooley published an addendum to research reports 17 and 18, and that addendum primarily focused on the senior years and kind of continuing on the work that had previously been done. Then in 2021, 5 research papers were published, and each one focused on a different strand of the curriculum. The reason I'm showing these research reports is to show the thinking and the people who've been involved in getting this curriculum to where it is today. There's been a huge amount of research done, gathering best international practice, best national practice, and the authors of these reports are the people who are at the forefront of maths education in our country. So many of us here tonight will have heard these authors speak during our initial teacher training education, or we might have heard them at webinars, or the messages from them we'd have heard at recent CPD courses we'd have heard. So while the curriculum is new, the messages of the curriculum have been around for a long time, and now they're kind of being consolidated, I guess, in the publication that was done last school year, the draft specifications and the draft toolkit. All of these documents are available on the NCCA website, but I know when I first looked at them, and when you see them on the screen like this, sometimes it can appear a little bit daunting. There's a huge word count, there's a huge number of pages if you printed out all of these, which would not be good for the environment, so I wouldn't recommend it. But there is a huge amount of content. What's important to remember is that not everything is changing. Like the laws of mathematics, the principles behind it are constant. Like maths is not changing. And the other thing that's remaining constant is the children that you teach. We're all experts at teaching our own class. We know the children in front of us, and we're best placed to prepare lessons for those children. So those two things are really staying the same. And what we're being asked to look at is maybe our attitudes towards teaching maths and where we place our focus and how we teach maths. So we might ask ourselves questions like, what's the most important thing when we're teaching maths this year? You know, are we focusing on maybe the children learning how to calculate, or are we maybe focusing on them learning how to solve problems in different ways? So it's really a change in where we place our emphasis. The quote on the screen, I think, is a really powerful quote from the draft curriculum. And it says that mathematics is everywhere and for everyone. And I think that's just brilliant, that it's really emphasizing that every single child is capable of deep mathematical thinking. They all have the capacity for thinking about maths in a meaningful way. And it's emphasizing that it's in the environment all around us and that everyone is capable of learning maths and enjoying maths and considering themselves a maths person. And I think that's something that maybe it was missing for some people when they were growing up. Some people feel very strong maths anxiety, and it's towards getting away from that and trying to encourage all of the children to feel like they are math people. The image you can see on your screen now shows the overarching aim of the curriculum, which is mathematical proficiency. And I think in Ireland, sometimes we may have taken mathematical proficiency to mean procedural fluency. I think procedural fluency is a real strength of maths in our country, but possibly overemphasized. That there is a huge emphasis on knowing how to do long multiplication, knowing how to rename. And while all those things are really, really important, so too are the other components of mathematical proficiency. So I think there's huge opportunity here to look at some of the other elements that maybe we'd feel less confident with, and keep what's good in what we're doing, because all of teachers in Ireland are brilliant. We're always trying our best for the children around us. So I think it's about like looking at what we're doing well and then seeing if there's something we can add in. So for example, maybe looking at adaptive reasoning or really focusing on building a conceptual understanding of the topic we're teaching. We'd be familiar with elements of a curriculum from the primary language curriculum, where we had communicating, understanding, and exploring and using. And in the draft maths curriculum, there's 4 elements, which are understanding and connecting, communicating, applying and problem solving, and reasoning. And we really took these were really to the forefront of our minds when we were writing my problem solving journal. You'll see there's a huge emphasis on developing problem solving skills and developing reasoning. And that was really a huge aim of ours when we were putting this product together. We also looked at communicating with the use of maths talk boxes, which we'll talk about later. And we really wanted the children to develop a conceptual understanding of the topics they were looking at. Next, we're going to move on to the importance of problem solving. And if you have any questions about what I've discussed there, please pop them into the chat box, and we'll discuss at the end. For me, I guess problem solving came to the fore during my first or second year of teaching. I felt a little bit of unease, I guess, when I was teaching maths. And one instant that really is in my mind is the teaching long division to 5th class. I remember preparing for the lessons, and I had a lovely poster up on the wall in colour and everything. I had a great flip chart with loads of examples. I did my very best explanation up the top of the room and showed all the steps to the children. And then I asked them to copy what I had done. And at least half the class were looking at me with blank expressions as I tried to run around the room putting out fires from all of the children who were saying they just didn't get it. And I think that for me highlighted how showing something and expecting the children to make connections and understand it just doesn't work for a lot of the children in our classes. For a lot of children, we need to try and move back to where they're coming from, where's their previous understanding, and let them build on that. And problem solving is a great way to do it. Instance like that really led me towards doing the Masters of Education, and from listening to the experts, the people who've written the research papers for this curriculum, it really led me to seeing problem solving as a huge asset in the classroom. Problem solving is something that we're probably hearing a lot of recently. You know, it's a huge skill for 21st century learning. It's part of computational thinking, and we hear about problem solving again and again in the media. It's also not something that's new in primary classrooms. Like, it's been in the 1999 curriculum, and it's like there's excellent things about problem solving in our current curriculum. And I think what the new draft is doing is trying to re-emphasize the skills of the curriculum we already had. So it's really looking at how can we encourage the development of these skills in the children in our classrooms. As shown you earlier, it's a key element of the new curriculum, and being mathematical is also one of the key parts of the competencies in the draft framework. So being mathematical and being a problem solver is going to be a key part of the primary classroom. The illustration you see now shows results from the NAEMAR national assessments. So this was an assessment of 6th class pupils in 2009 and 2014. And the graph shows that while our children improved at applying and problem solving, they were still it was still far behind the other skills that were assessed in that test. It was also from the same study, teachers highlighted problem solving as an area of CPD that they would like more of. When we think of problem solving, there's a couple of different things that might come to mind. In a lot of the textbooks that are out there at the minute, problem solving is dealt with mostly word problems. So whatever skill, like you can see on the page there, whatever skill they were learning, in this case it was multiplication 2, that skill is then transferred into a word problem. And acronyms like rucksack or RUDE can be used to maybe make sense of these problems, to underline the right parts, and then to apply a pre-learned formula to getting an answer. They're only one small part of problem solving. And I would say that they're quite closed off, because in the example you can see on your page there, or on the screen there, in part A, there's 6 questions and there's 6 correct answers to those problems. Similarly, in the mental maths homework books that we might be familiar with, there's problems there, but again, most of them are word problems with one right answer and one right answer box. When I talk about problem solving, I'm talking about more open-ended problems, which we've really tried to incorporate into my problem solving journal, and with other examples available on websites like Enrich and NZ Maths. And the PDST are brilliant for promoting the use of problem solving, and their manuals that they have on their website are packed full of links to direct you to other materials as well. I've always used Enrich and NZ Maths, and they're full of brilliant lessons. But I think one of the great things that Problem Solving Journal offers is a collection that are age and stage appropriate. So you have a bank of lessons there that are ready for your class. I've found I've been using it again and again. It's so easy to just find your topic and go in and have a ready-made lesson all ready to go. Just to show some examples of what would be available on with some of these resources. These images are from Robert Kaplinski's website, and he has these matrices which are available to freely download from his website. All you have to do is sign up to his mailing list. And it shows really what a traditional textbook problem might look like, in this case 253 plus 419. And he compares it then to how you can open up the problems and make them take an original piece of content, a textbook question, but open it up to turn it into a problem-solving lesson. So whereas traditionally these children might have been asked to do 10 calculations adding 2 to 3-digit numbers together, he's saying using the digits 1 to 9 exactly one time each, place a digit in each box to make the sum as close to 1,000 as possible. So the children, as they work on that problem, they're going to have to complete a number of calculations. So we're still achieving the objective that the original maybe textbook page would have achieved. But on top of that, we're building in problem solving skills. The children are thinking about place value. What's the value of the digit in each box? They're thinking about the result of their calculation, that they're trying to make it as close to 1,000 as possible. And they're doing a number of calculations and thinking about it in a more critical way. Now, there's still, of course, space for traditional questions like the one on the left. And I think maybe if we do less practice, but look at particular examples in more detail, it can also be really beneficial. So for example, with 253 plus 419, what if instead of asking children to do maybe 10 different questions like that, what if we ask them how many different ways can they solve that? Can they use number sense to solve it? For example, 419 is very close to 420. Would I be able to manipulate the numbers slightly to make it easier to add that using number sense or mental maths? So there's still opportunities to use the traditional question, but to open it up a bit more and to ask the children to think about it in more meaningful ways. Here's an example then from my problem solving journal that I used with my class today. And the premise is that it's a 3-digit number multiplied by 6 results in a 4-digit number, and you have to figure out which number is represented by each shape. So the children worked through this task. I think we spent 40 minutes on it today, and they were practicing multiplication. You could see which children had a really strong understanding of multiplication. You could see which children knew their multiplication facts really well and which children were struggling with that. And you could also see the children working on their problem solving skills and their reasoning skills. And there was excellent maths talk as they were talking to each other and working collaboratively to solve this. There's inbuilt differentiation as well. So for example, some children found 2 or 3 different ways of solving this problem. whereas more children, another 2 or 3 children found 10 or 11 different solutions to this. And some children needed support with their first attempt at it. And some children needed you to help them to come up with one example or to test a certain set of numbers. But after that support was given, then they were able to go and work on another example themselves. And I think it's one of the real values of having a problem that has multiple solutions. Because if there's more than one right way of doing it, if a child needs support in getting one solution, then they can work independently to find the next solution. And you can go back in to help children as they need it. I think there's some real key advantages to teaching using problem solving. And for me, I think my favorite one is the sense of excitement that's in the room. There's a real buzz when children are working on problems. They're talking to each other, but it's real productive talk. Like when you're walking around, you can hear what the children are talking about. And when there's a problem or something to solve, more often than not, the talk is about maths and about the problem at hand. And there's inbuilt differentiation, like I said with the previous problem. For some children, success meant finding 2 solutions to that problem, whereas for others, success was finding 11. And there was no emphasis on one success being greater than the other. So different children could tackle the problem at their level and experience success from it. There's a big increase in formative assessment and really importantly, decreased correcting. Like at the end of that lesson, the children had corrected the work themselves by knowing what was the goal of the problem. Did I achieve the aims? Did I find which number was represented by each shape, and did I follow the rules of the problem? And there wasn't reams of work to be corrected. As I was walking around talking to the different groups and talking to the children, the assessment was being completed. And you didn't have bundles of copies to bring home at the end of the day, because the children weren't looking to me for a correct answer, because they knew, like, they were looking at their work and they knew if they had solved it or not, which is a huge opportunity to give them ownership of their own maths. And there's definitely experiences of success for more pupils. As I mentioned at the start, back to when I first started teaching, and all those children had their hands up telling me they just didn't get it. Like, it's an awful feeling for the child who feels that what was just explained to them is double Dutch, where when you use a problem solving approach and there's a chance for every child to get started and to grapple with the maths at hand, it allows more children to experience success and to feel like they're becoming maths people. And yes, they were able to solve the problem. The fact that the child at the next table solved it in different ways than they did doesn't diminish their success in the slightest. And I think it brings us back to that idea that maths is for everyone. If this is something that you're interested in, that you'd like to know a bit more about, I would really suggest just giving it a go. Maths Week is coming up. It's a brilliant opportunity to try out a problem, whether it's from Problem Solving Journal or from Enrich or NZ Maths. There's so many good problems out there, and I'd really just encourage you to give it a go. And as you do that, remember that the teacher is a partner in discovery and not an expert. In my classroom, when the children are working on a problem like this, sometimes they'll ask, "Teacher, is this right?" And I love to look at them and just say, "I don't know," because it's not about me. You know, it's about, if they think this is right, justify it. Tell me why you think this is right. Explain what you were thinking to me. And it's not about the product or something that they have written at the end. It's really about their journey in the learning. As you do it, these lessons are busy lessons for teachers. Like, as the children are working in my problem solving journal, it's the teacher's role to encourage the maths talk between groups and to encourage productive group work between the children. And most importantly, don't be afraid to skip pages of your textbooks. I'll guarantee you that the children will learn as much, if not more, from a problem solving task as they will from a page of calculations in their textbook. If problem solving and the idea of open-ended tasks is something that you'd like to hear more about, Maths for All are running a webinar on the 19th of October for Maths Week. And it sounds like it's going to be a really interesting talk by Professor Hamza Venkat, and I certainly can't wait to attend. So I'd encourage you to register for that if it's something you're interested in. And registration is with Clare Education Centre. So if you go to their website, you'll find the link there to join. Finally then, I'm just going to show you some samples of my problem solving journal and explain some of the key elements and try and highlight how it can help to deliver this problem solving approach to teaching maths. So the programme runs from 1st to 6th class, and as I mentioned earlier, Grace Lynch and Elaine Dillon were the other two authors who worked with me. And each book has accompanying teaching notes which are available on Folens online. There's also photocopiables being put on Folens online to support teaching some of the problems where we feel that having that photocopiable there might be an extra support for some of the children in your class. The programme is devised by topic. So it's not envisaged that you'd use this book in order from page 6 to page 64. It's really tailored to suit you and the needs of your children. So if you're teaching the topic of fractions, then you'll be able to go to page 28. And it's envisaged that you'll jump in and out of the book doing different pages and in whatever order suits your yearly scheme best. As you see there, we have it's very clearly labelled with the strand and the strand units. There's also mapping documents which link my problem solving journal to Busy at Maths and to Planet Maths, so that if you're on a particular topic in one of those books, you can go to the mapping document on Folens online and you can see which problem is most suitable to support that unit of learning. There's a huge variety of tasks in the book. We've made them as varied as we can. There's games, there's tasks, there's loads of different types of workspaces. Some problems are more visual. The one you can see about the penguin really focuses on the idea of computational thinking, and as they use lines and angles to think about rotations. You can see some examples of our games here, and we've tried to put a good mix of problems into all the different books to really explore all the different types of problem solving that are out there. On with each problem, there's a 2-page spread. So when the children open the book in front of them, both pages are connected to the one problem, and it's aimed to scaffold them through the thinking involved in the problem. It's very clearly labelled with the strand and strand unit to make it as easy as possible for planning and for navigating. Each spread includes at least one maths talk box to encourage meaningful maths talk, and we've included lines here for the children to record the things that came up when they were discussing maths, just really to emphasise the importance of this and to give them some accountability for the maths talk that they're having with their partners. There's top tips throughout to help guide the children, and lots of different types of workspaces. There's extension activities which are brilliant at the end of each spread, and they help the children to, maybe the children who are finished up a bit early, to give them something else to extend the task so that they're not going to be coming to you saying, oh, teacher, I'm done, I've nothing else to do. The extensions are there to support all of the learners in your class. And there's a problem solving strategy poster, which is in each of the books and is also available on Folens online as well to print out, or you could make a larger copy of it if that was something you wanted. And very importantly, as I said earlier, the teaching notes are up there. The teaching notes have skills objectives listed. They have teaching points, which are some of the things that you might want to consider before you teach the problem. And then there are anticipated student responses, where we've thought about how might children react to this problem, what kind of answers might they give, and we've listed them for you. So you can, even if you don't feel overly confident teaching problem solving, use this as a support to maybe guide the children or to see how children might react to this problem. It was really important for us that you would feel prepared going into to teach these lessons. This year we're using the 6th class book. I'm using it with my class, And it's really brilliant to see it in action, and to see how the children are reacting to it. I've picked a couple of samples just to show you how the children worked in it. This was one of the first problems we did, and it really shows how children can experience different levels of success with the one problem. So there are many possibilities to this, there are many possibilities and solutions to this problem, and this child found 5 different ways of solving it. So it shows how the one problem can be extended. You're getting that practice of addition in as well, but it's doing it with a problem-solving focus. Here you can see how a child actually used the visual at the top of the page to solve the problem. She only used a small piece of her workspace to verify her answer and to double check her answer, but then she used the rest of that workspace for the extension activity, and she was able to develop on her ideas into the extension and use that space to keep it all together. These pictures, I've chosen them because I think they show how different children will use the workspace differently. So you see the pictures on the top, how the children have used the space in their way to display their results how they want. And it's really important for me, I guess, as a teacher looking at this, that the books don't all look the same at the end. It's their problem-solving journal, emphasis on that it's how they reacted to the problem and how they interpreted and modeled their thinking. And the Maths Talk box on the bottom, then I've just chosen to show you how the low entry, high ceiling problems work. So the problem we were working on, we said that the average age of 3 children was 8, and one of the children was age 12. And the children were asked to figure out what ages the other 2 children could be. So the initial answers were they could be 6, 6 and 12, they could be 5, 7 and 12, they could be 10, 2 and 12. But then someone mentioned, well, what if they count their age in half years or quarter years? And someone said, okay, well, it could be 12 years old, 7 3/4 year old, and 4 1/4 years old. And they were bringing in fractions. And then I asked them, well, what would 7 3/4 be in months? And they were saying, okay, 7 years and 9 months. So it just shows how the problems can always be extended that bit more, and it gives children the flexibility to think about things a little bit more deeply, that there isn't just one right answer, and it's up to them really to push it as far as they can. Finally then, and I think Kira is going to put links to these websites into the chat box for you. These are just some websites that you might find useful. The NCCA website, I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, but there are excellent support materials on that website. They're really short, 2 or 3 pages, again, written by the experts, and they're short, teacher-friendly documents. The one about tasks and using tasks in the classroom is really great, and they're all there for you. For some CPD ideas, you might like to visit Maths for All, and again, their webinars are run in conjunction with Clare Education Centre, so they're great down in Clare Education Centre for the webinars they put on. So I would really recommend following them on Twitter if you're interested in more webinars. And finally then folens.ie for any information you'd like on seeing samples or seeing these books. I'd really recommend getting a physical copy of the samples if you can, because it's lovely to see the hard copy in your hand. So that's it from me. So I'm going to pass back to Elizabeth now.
Thanks a million, Patrick. Lots of really useful content, really interesting links. We've had a couple of questions actually already around the links and stuff like that. So just to reassure everyone that what we'll do is in the next day or two, we will send everyone that's attended a recording of this webinar, so you'll be able to refer back to everything that Patrick has gone through, and we'll also include some of those links in that email as well. So just before we just rush off to the Q&A session, just a reminder, as Patrick has already mentioned, what we do is when we have books that you'd like to evaluate, we put a flip book or a version of the ebook up on folens.ie. So that's on open access for you to have a look through. And we also have some sample teaching notes up there as well. So they're all up there at the moment. You just have to go on to folens.ie and you'll be able to flip through some of those books online for yourself. And we also, to celebrate Maths Week, we're providing a different challenge or a different problem for three of the, like, so for first and second class, one for third and fourth, and one for fifth and sixth. And we're also going to include the accompanying teaching notes as well. So they're up on folens.ie now for you to use, and there's enough content in each of the challenges to have for a problem solving lesson over Maths Week. So that, hopefully you'll find that useful as well. And then finally, we actually have a fantastic special offer running at the moment for my problem solving journal for class sets. So we've a 50% discount. So the normal price is €8.50 per book, and the discounted price is €4.25. So if you'd like more information or samples, or you'd like to place an order for class set, just talk to your local Folens rep, and all their details are also up on folens.ie. And the closing date for that special offer is the 31st of October. So now I am just going to ask Patrick and Ciara to join us once again for the Q&A session. So I've a couple of questions that people have sent through, so I'll just try and go through as many of these as I can. Yeah, we had one question around, is the book available online? Yes, as in we do have on folens.ie, as I said, a version of the book that you can flick through and evaluate. And then obviously if your school adopts the book and decides to take up on the special offer, then all of the teaching notes and the ebook will be up on Folens online for you to access. We had another question about webinars for children for Maths Week. Ciara, I think, do you want to just answer that? Sorry. I'm not sure what
your mic is off, Ciara.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be working. I'll just take that. I know Maths Week, mathsweek.ie do a brilliant series of webs or videos for Maths Week. Maths Week TV, which is it's always guided at a particular class level each day, and brilliant videos. So there's definitely that content there. I think you're up and running now, Ciara.
Yeah, I've unmuted now. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
I was just pressing the button over and over again. I think I was actually making it work by doing that. So I answered that in a much better fashion than I could have anyway. I was just going to say that it was a lovely idea actually, and not something that we had planned, but it's great to know that Maths Week do that, and possibly something we could get involved in the future as well. So it's great.
I'd say keep an eye on the different education centres around. They often do webinars for classrooms. Like since COVID, the education centres have really championed the online webinars and online learning. So make sure to follow them on Twitter or something to stay abreast of what they're up to.
Just had a question in relation to the arrival of the first and second class books. Ciara, do you have the answer to that?
Yeah, it was great to see a couple of people asking about that, because those books weren't due to come out until later this year. And obviously people are interested in them, which is brilliant. So we have managed to get them in a bit earlier. So as far as I'm aware, first class is now available. It's definitely up on Folens online. So if you've book listed the book and you've sent that in to us, you'll have access to the ebook up there. And we do, I believe, have them in our warehouse as well. So depending on how you've ordered them, they should be out to you very soon if they're not already. Second class will be online in the next couple of days. It's gone to print, so it'll be up there for, again, anyone who has access to it will be able to get that on Folens online. And the actual physical books should be in within the next 2 weeks as well, so that they can go out to schools. Anyone with specific questions on that, if you've ordered them, you're interested in ordering them, get in touch with your rep and they'll be able to give you the specifics on when they'll be out to you.
Great. Another question here, maybe Patrick, would you recommend the first class book for the first term in second class?
I think with the problems, they're designed to be low entry, high ceiling, most of the problems, so that children can approach the problem at their own level. So for example, the problem that I was using with my class today was a 5th class problem, but it still worked really well in 6th class. You could also take some of the 6th class problems and use them back in 5th class. So I wouldn't really think about it in terms of what term you'd use it in. I'd think about it a little bit more in how far you'd expect the children to get with it, or the responses you'd expect the children to give back would be different at the start of the year than at the end.
Great. And then there's another question as well, Patrick. Would you recommend for children to do the problems on their own or in pairs and groups?
Oh, always in pairs and groups. Like these problems are designed to be, the answer isn't obvious when you, so they're designed to challenge children and to have something for children to grapple with. And I think when we're encouraging Maths Talk and we're hoping that productive Maths Talk will happen, that a group dynamic is the best way for that to work. And for me personally, in my classroom, I don't usually go with pairs or groups of 3 if you have to, but I find that pairs can work quite.
Okay, and then is there any, I know as part of my problem solving journal, we don't have anything Osc Gaeilge at the moment, but would you recommend any links, Patrick, that may provide resources Osc Gaeilge?
It's kind of one of the reasons why we came up with this project in the first place. Examples or websites for the Irish classroom don't really exist. You know, like the websites that I was recommending there are mostly international. Now I will say mathsforall.ie, they have examples of tasks that can be used in the classroom, and their resources are all translated into Irish. Now there are more resources for teachers and lesson plans for teachers, but there's some content there as well that can be shared with pupils.
Yeah, and listen, if anyone from COG is listening or get in touch with anyone, we might also be able to translate the problem solving journal into Irish at some stage in the future. We'll rule that out. That could be a lovely project for us to do. So we will get in touch with COG about doing that.
Great. I think someone else has asked, I think it's slightly separate, about their teacher resources for their school. I have your name here, so we'll follow up and look into that and see what's happened there. And yeah, I think someone else has asked about an actual sample copy. Yeah, the best thing to do is chat to your rep, because they'll be able to organise all that for you. But I have details there as well. I just want to make sure, just the way the questions come in, that I'm not missing anything really crucial.
There's one there, Elizabeth, that just came in, which I think would be a good one actually for Patrick to answer, which is, do you use the workbook daily or one day or a topic? Because I think how to use it is a great thing to actually discuss a bit further.
Yeah, so there's 30 problems in book, so I tend to use this once a week, but some of the problems might even extend into the second day. So for example, we did one problem and we spent a full lesson working on the one problem, and then I just felt that the children could spend longer working with the problem solving ideas in it, so just change the numbers, and we worked on it again the next day. So it's designed for one a week, but you know, if there's definitely opportunities for extensions and for using it more than one day a week.
Yeah, and I think another related question to that is, how does it fit into everything else that has to be covered in maths?
And that's why we have to skip pages of the core books, and it's something that I would have done before we had Problem Solving Journal using lessons from Enrich or the other websites that are out there. And it's back to us having that teacher agency that the NCCA are talking about in their planning and preparation material, that we know the children best because they're in front of us every day. And if we think that teaching a problem is more beneficial to the children than covering a page of a book or covering something else, then that's what we should be doing. You know, that it's up to us to decide what's most useful for the children in front of us, and to make those professional judgments and those calls for ourselves and for the children in front of us.
Brilliant. I think that nearly all the questions there now. If anyone has any final questions, if they want to just quickly put it in, and if not, what we'll do is, as I said, we'll send out the recording in the next few days, and with some of those links as well. But yeah, that's it for all the questions. But thanks a million, Patrick. That was really super, and thanks, Ciara, for all your support. And in the background, I have to call out to all the different people, Brian, Katerina and Bridget, helping in the background with technical support. And thank you all for giving your time to us this evening. We hope you found it useful and interesting. And yeah, have a lovely evening. Thanks a million.